Hi, it's Chris Grimm, and this is Deep Work Fast, where every Tuesday at this time, 3 o'clock Pacific time, we on LinkedIn and Facebook, and then replay anytime you want. For 20 minutes or less, I bring you tools, concepts, ideas that you can put to work immediately, right? To do deep work on yourself, sometimes to help you if you manage a team or if you're a parent or a partner, whatever role you're in. I'm going to bring you the tools, 28 years of coaching, and a whole library of stuff that I know is good. In fact, better than good. It's effective. And that's what I'm here for. So today, I want to talk to you about something that is very misunderstood. So I'm hoping the tools and the ideas that I bring to you today, that you'll have more clarity about what I'm talking about, so that if you read it or see it in other places, you'll know what it means. You'll know what it means to you, and then how to address the issues that might not actually be working for you. So this week's blog that I dropped, and thank you, Heather, she just put the link in the chat, is called The Unexpected Connection Between Mental Load and Creativity. And so in that really short read, grab that blog. I'm not going to repeat everything here. I'm going to give you more. But in the blog, I start to talk about this connection. And the reason I call it unexpected is that most people, when I tell them about it, they don't connect the dots without me connecting the dots for them. So this will connect the dots for you. Today, I want to talk about what mental load means so that you are aware, because it has about 8 or 9 aspects to it, I think. So we're going to look at that in a few minutes. I'm going to have Heather put up a slide. Not yet, Heather. Then the second half today, I am going to give you a link to some free information. And of course, they have stuff you could buy if you want to read their books and look at their stuff, that I believe holistically addresses this issue. So the first thing I want to talk about is mental load, and what I mean by mental load as an idea that is a physical state, right? Mental load, everybody kind of goes, oh, so you're talking about only what's happening in my brain. So I'm going to talk about a lot that's happening in your head and in your brain, but the impact on the rest of your body. And we're all used to it. It's normal for us to experience the things that I'm going to go through with you. So I want you to become aware of this. I want you to think about what this means to you in your life and your work, because this thing called mental load that has layers is keeping you from being at your best, right? It impacts our ability to be creative, specifically spontaneously creative, right? It doesn't, when we have mental load or we're maxed out on mental load and fatigued and tired, and all of you tell me all the time, I know the feeling too, when you're completely depleted at the end of your workday and sometimes in the middle of your day, which is why people need like coffee or something at 3 o'clock. Right. So when we're in that state, our memory's not as great. We don't process information as quickly as when we're fresh and rested. That's why some people take certain meetings and want to do certain work in the morning when they're fresh and not at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, because our battery runs out. So I want to dig into this. I want to talk about mental load so that you get over kind of a shallow understanding and understand all the layers of it, so that you can start to pay attention to your own mental load, what that means to you, what days and how that's layering on top of each other, like I said, and creating potentially blocks to you being a great problem solver, because you being your best at work and at home most likely has to do with problem solving life. Right? Many situations we have to get things done with other people. So whether that's at home or in your personal, or at work or at home, it is, right? Like you need to perform. You need to be able to have interactions with people that solve conflicts, prevent conflicts, make good decisions, know when a decision has to be made, know how to manage something if it's not working well, right? All of those things need you oftentimes to be at your best. And most of us are spending a lot of time and we're not at our best. Okay, so Heather, go ahead and put up that slide and let's talk about the aspects of mental load. So, when I talk about mental load and moving forward, I'm just going to give you this language. You can Google this if you want, but I took this from a number of sources that all seem to be saying the same thing. What does it mean when we talk about mental load? So, the first part, the most obvious, everybody, is whatever in any moment is taking your immediate attention away. So if you think about your day at any moment in time, things and people, stuff is requiring your attention. So the first part and the most obvious part of what's loading us mentally and physically are all the things around us at any moment that need our attention. So when I say people, well, that's the most obvious part of this, right? If you're talking to people, if you're in a meeting, if you're walking down the hall, if you're driving in your car, whatever, there are people who want our attention and want your attention, and some of them will work really hard to get it. Have you had a toddler? Okay, there are things, right? So think about, like, if you're trying to do a whole bunch of things, you might spill your coffee, right? You might need to get a pen. You might need to be doing PowerPoint and your technology is not working, and that requires your attention. And that's why you see on the list um, crises, the agenda for today, things that derail your agenda for the day. So think about how many days you wake up in the morning and you think you know what the day has in store, and then you get distracted and you get derailed, right? You off your agenda, you don't do all the things on your to-do list. That's why, because stuff happens, things show up that are planned or unplanned, and they need our immediate attention. And that is a big deal because when we're awake and we're conscious, most likely we're trying to do something. So immediate attention is the first layer of mental load. The second layer and the third layer are, you'll see there on the list, the past and the future, right? So many people spend a lot of time, what we call ruminating, which means thinking about the past, right? I should have done this. I could have said that. Why didn't I do that? I forgot to do that, right? That's the immediate past, most likely recent situations. Sometimes it could be more than that. Sometimes you could be upset about something that happened a week ago or a month ago. Whatever. Maybe you lost a client. Maybe you made a decision, a family decision, and you regret that. That's the past, right? Adding to your mental load because those thoughts are trying to take your time and your attention away from number one, all the stuff in front of you that you need to get done and you're trying to do at any moment. The third one is the future. So when we are thinking a lot about what's coming, sometimes we call it future tripping. Also, when our brain wants to plan things, when we're worried about something, you know how you'll maybe rehearse something over and over and over again. Maybe you're going to have a job interview and you're nervous about it, right? So you're thinking about it a lot, right? So, what is it doing? It's adding to your mental load because those thoughts, that worry, and those ideas are trying to sneak in. They're trying to find a space, a crack in a moment of the day when maybe you're not in a Zoom or you're not on the phone or you're not doing something that requires all of your attention, right? Like if when you're on a plane or you're in the car or something and you have space that no one's talking to you, most likely what seeps in there, well, the past or the future, trying to get space. Number four are deep subconscious memories, your values, your beliefs, etc. Right? So when I say deep and subconscious, so other than the past and the future that are kind of coming from the past or out projecting into the future, your deep subconscious, right? Your subconscious mind has a lot of stuff in it. It has memories. It has a whole lifetime of memories, piles and piles of it. And your values lives in there too because it comes out of what's called your worldview. I've talked about that before. The beliefs and the things that are the most important to us that are, somewhat evergreen. And what that means is that we're carrying them with us all the time. They're not necessarily situational, right? It's your belief system, and specifically our values. When we have strong values about something, right? It's sitting back there in our subconscious, but it's not dormant. It's like a folder that's open. And so when we're doing our day to day, which is number one, all the things in your immediate attention, and the past and the future are playing out, if in fact there's situations where we know we have to make a decision and that decision is important to us, most likely in our subconscious, there's stuff going on behind the scenes, right? Running in the background like an app that's trying to feed our conscious mind the right ideas and things to make a decision. That's why if you study or ever hear someone who analyzes people's dreams, a lot comes out in our dreams that are subconscious. It means that it's the stuff that it might not make sense in the real world and the physical, but back in your subconscious, it's ideas and images and things that are at work and at play running behind the scenes. The fifth thing is what we do on autopilot. So remember, we have an autonomic nervous system. We have parts of our bodies, thank you, God, that work without us thinking about it. And another one, I probably mentioned it, right? When I did breath work with all of you, I mentioned that like dolphins, believe it or not, have to think about breathing. We don't. Our body just is breathing. Our heart is beating. There's all these things that are keeping you running that you don't have to think about. But the reason they're on this list is all of those autopilot functions do need energy out of your body, your battery, right? So, like I said, you are just like a big old battery. So am I. And so, as the day goes on, all of the automatic things also can get fatigued. And if we are using all of our energy with all the items I just went through, then our body has to work harder to do the autopilot stuff that, by the way, we need to live and stay and be healthy. And then we also add what I call the extra load on there. And I listed just a few things, right? But think about it. If you've ever been hungover, I know you've never done that, but hangover, illness, pain, people who have chronic pain will tell you, right? That adds to the mental load. When we are tired, if you're sleep deprived, or if you just generally have depletion or fatigue. And then, of course, there's tech fatigue, which there's tons of articles about. I know you've heard it. Being on video is a different kind of fatigue on our eyes and on our brain. Blue light, those things in your ears all the time, right? Like we are adding with the things that we do and the technology we use, not to even mention all the push notifications that we get on these devices, right? So just think about that. So when you think about mental load, from now on, I want you to understand that all that stuff is going on, most of which you probably aren't thinking about intentionally or consciously until now, which is why I'm bringing it to your attention. And Heather, you can go ahead and take that list away, and maybe we'll make a PDF of that and we can make it available potentially in the chat. You can just take it down for a sec, Heather, and then we'll go to the next one later. So let's just recap here. So everyone has mental load. When we're awake and when we're asleep, our body is working and our mind is working for us. And so I want you to be aware of all of that. I want you to be intentional about what you're loading on top of your normal mental load. If you work full time, I don't care if it's a job in your house or out of your house or on Zoom or in person or whatever. If you have a place that you've signed up for, you've created either self-imposed or expectations of other people that all day, every day, you're going to do stuff. Most likely you've got everything on that list, barring maybe the last one if you just don't do any of those things. But it's really difficult to do that because the life we are leading is overscheduled, over functioning. We got a crazy life, everybody. And this creates this load, right? So what do we do about it? So I want to show you something. There's a whole bunch of things out there some of them credible, something not that credible. And I wanted to just point you in the direction of something that is a holistic way of looking at this. So you may or may not have heard of something called the blue zones. Now, stick with me for a second. I did not put this in the blog, so this might be completely new to you. And in a second here, I'm going to have Heather put up another slide and show you. But first, I want to tell you what this is. So there is a group of people that for many, many years have been studying doctors, researchers, counselors, people on this earth who live past 100 years old healthily. And they found people around the world, certain groups of people, populations, communities, if you will. And no, they don't all live like on a high mountaintop or on some weird island. Some of them do, but most of them don't. So listen what I got. So what they studied over all these years was what all of those groups and people had in common and why they were consistently having people in their communities live past 100 years old. So centurions or something, I forget what you call people who live past 100. Anyway, so they have more than one, right? So it's generational. They see these people. It wasn't just genetic, right? So they were studying them going, oh, so maybe just this tribe of people or this group of people. They started to study lifestyle, and then they crossed lifestyle across all of these groups of people. I think there's 7 different communities that they were studying, and they came up with what they believe are the 9 commonalities in all of those groups. This has a documentary on Netflix. It's called Blue Zones. Now there's books and there's cookbooks. There's everything to support this lifestyle. It's not too crazy. So I just want to show you some of the things. Some of them you're going to go, oh, duh, that sounds like it would do it. Some of them might not be that obvious. And the reason I'm saying it to you is because we're killing ourselves. And of course, that requires a lot of pharmaceuticals and a lot of coping mechanisms and a lot of other things if we stay in the mental load business of keeping ourselves overloaded all day, every day. This does not get you a long, healthy life. What it gets us is people who run their battery, get stressed out all the time, get sick, and end up, as you know, ending our life whenever that is, oftentimes needing a lot of assistance and oftentimes dying of something, heart disease, cancer, etc. And so in these communities that they studied, and I'll let you watch the documentary, there's a TED Talk if you can't do a whole documentary. It's pretty compelling and it's not that difficult, but it does require that you get a hold of this mental load thing and start to make different choices for yourself so that all day, every day, you have more balance and not so much of the crazy. And so, Heather, go ahead and put up. Thank you, Heather, for putting stuff in the chat for everybody. Go ahead and let's just look at it together. This is what's called the Blue Zones Power 9, the 9 lifestyle habits of the world's healthiest, longest living people. When I first watched the documentary, I have to tell you, I was kind of like, I don't want to live that long, because of course my thought about it was that, oh gosh, I was going to live that long and my body will have shut down and I'm going to be living in some facility where no one's going to talk to me. I don't know. I had all these terrible, terrible thoughts. Not because my family's bad, but because that tends to be fairly normal in our country. Okay, so let's look at the Blue Zones Power 9. Look at that like a clock. And if you look at 1 o'clock, you can see something I talk about all the time, which is people deeply connected to their purpose. People who know how to downshift every day, right? They know how to go from the highest gears, fast moving, over functioning, to a resting state. As you keep going around, they have an 80% rule of the way they eat, right? They don't overeat very often. They know when to stop at about 80% instead of 100% full. They have a lot of plant-based, or at least they eat foods that are alive instead of processed foods and dead things. Do you? Wine at 5 o'clock. This was the happiest part of this. I thought, oh, hey, that's really cool. I'm glad it's on the list. I'm sure you might be too. And then that whole blue part in there is about their community. It's about having people around you in your tribe, your loved ones, right? Belonging to groups who don't want you to have mental load. Let me say it again. These are people that advocate for you to do all those other things I mentioned and help you create a lifestyle that is balanced and healthy instead of rewarding you for mental load, overworking, killing yourself on the hamster wheel, right? And of course, the last thing is movement because our bodies weren't actually made to sit in a chair all day, every day. And so, what natural movement means is not fake movement. And to them, fake movement is things like treadmills. But instead of that, walking outside, gardening, doing things so that your body, until you're 100 or more, moves naturally. I know I've gone past my 20-minute mark. So, I just want to thank you for joining me or watching the replay. I hope this helps you. Go to check out Blue Zones. I am not affiliated with them. I just am a fan because I think they're bringing us some wisdom. So whether you want to live to 100 or not, I want you to live your best life for as long as that is. And this is definitely going to help do that if you take it seriously. Okay, I'll let you go. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'll see you next week. Bye.